This is Zen, Beginning on the Path, Mindfulness and Inner Peace. Written by Evie Harrison. Narrated by Mary Johnson. Copyright 2020 by Evie Harrison. And production copyright by Evie Harrison. Chapter 1. Is Zen meditation the right thing for you? Zen meditation, which is also referred to as Zazen, is a meditation strategy rooted in Buddhist psychology. The objective of Zen meditation is to regulate attention. It is in some cases described as a practice that includes thinking about not thinking. Many people usually sit in the lotus position or sit with their legs crossed during Zen meditation and focus their attention inward. Though some practitioners say this step is achieved by counting breaths, generally from 1 to 10, others say there is no counting involved. What occurs throughout Zen meditation? Zen meditation is considered an open monitoring meditation, where tracking abilities are used. These monitoring skills are changed into a state of reflexive consciousness with a broad scope of attention and without focusing on one particular thing. Zen meditation is similar to mindfulness in that it is about focusing on the presence of mind. Nevertheless, mindfulness concentrates on a particular object, and Zen meditation includes a general awareness. Unlike loving generosity and empathy meditation, which focuses on cultivating empathy, or mantra meditation, which involves the recitation of a mantra, Zen meditation includes increased consciousness of the ongoing physical and self-referential processes. People who practice Zen meditation effort to broaden their attentional scope to incorporate the flow of understandings, ideas, emotions, and subjective awareness. Zen meditation usually involves keeping the eyes semi-open, which is not the same as most other forms of meditation that motivate closing the eyes. During Zen meditation, professionals also dismiss any thoughts that pop into their minds and basically think of nothing. With time, they learn how to keep their minds from roaming and could even have the ability to use their unconscious minds. Often, the goal is to end up being more knowledgeable about presumptions and getting insight into oneself. Benefits. A lot of research plainly shows meditation has a vast array of physical, cognitive, social, spiritual, and psychological health advantages. And obviously, meditation can be a great tension reliever, which is the reason why many individuals turn to it in the first place. It is likely that Zen meditation offers a lot of the exact same advantages as other types of meditation, but much of the research on meditation hasn't distinguished between the different types. There is early research that shows different kinds of meditation could impact the brain in partially different ways. So, it is possible that Zen meditation may offer some additional benefits past those seen in other types of meditation. Influence on the brain. For several years, researchers have studied how meditation influences the mind and the body. There has been some particular interest in Zen meditation practice and how it affects the brain. In a 2008 study, researchers compared 12 people who had more than 3 years of daily practice in Zen meditation with 12 novices who had never ever practiced meditation. Everybody in the research study was given a brain scan and asked to concentrate on their breathing. Occasionally, they were asked to distinguish a very real word from a nonsense word on a computer screen. Then, they were advised to focus on the breathing again. The scans revealed that Zen training caused activity in a set of brain areas known as a default network. The default network is linked to roaming minds. The volunteers who regularly practiced Zen meditation also had the ability to go back to their breathing much faster than the beginners after being interrupted. The authors of the study concluded that meditation might improve the capacity to stay focused, concentrate, and try to limit distractions, all of which can be a battle for people in today's digital world. Access to the unconscious. There has also been a lot of curiosity about whether Zen meditation can enable professionals to better access their unconscious minds. It is thought that the mindful mind can only focus on one thing at a time, like your grocery list or a book that you read right now. Though experts presume the subconscious mind is huge. Many researchers actually believe that understanding how to access unconscious processes could promote a greater creative skill and help people become more aware of what they need to do to reach their objectives. A 2012 study analyzed whether Zen meditation helped professionals better access their subconscious minds. All of the participants were skilled Zen meditators. One group was asked to meditate for 20 minutes. The other group was asked to read magazines. After that, all of the individuals were seated in cubicles with a computer screen. They were instructed to connect 3 words presented on the screen with a 4th involved word. They also were asked to type the answer as quick as possible. The people who practiced meditation before the test had the ability to complete the job much faster, which demonstrated that they had better access to their unconscious minds. In another study, one group was again asked to practice meditation for 20 minutes, while the control group was just told to relax. And then, all of the volunteers were asked 20 questions, each with 3 or 4 right answers. An example would be the following. They could be asked to name one of the 4 times of the year. Nevertheless, prior to seeing the question on the computer system screen, a possible answer, such as spring, flashed for 16 milliseconds. On average, the meditation group gave 6.8 answers that matched the subliminal words. The control group only matched an average of 4.9 words. The researchers concluded that the meditators were better able to access what the brain focused on than the non-meditators. The research study authors report Zen meditation might be able to provide better insight into what is going on in the background of the brain. Zen meditation allows you to better comprehend how you are feeling, why you make certain choices, and how you are influenced by your environment. This could have a big impact on your life. Substance abuse treatment. Zen meditation is typically used in substance abuse treatment programs in Taiwan because it slows heart rate and respiration while also enhancing the functioning of the autonomic nerve system. Truth be told, the authors of a 2018 research study released in the Journal of Traditional and Complementary Medication found that Zen meditation influences brain-heart interactions. According to the authors, Zen practitioners devote their practice to divulging the spiritual heart inside the organ heart. They specify, through years of Zen meditation practice, professionals have their brain works absolutely reformed into a so-called detached heart dominated by the spiritual heart. People who are in recovery from substance abuse also may experience issues with their free nervous system, the system responsible for the control of the physical functions that are not consciously directed, like breathing, heartbeat, and digestion processes. Scientists have found out that 10-minute Zen meditation sessions have shown substantial improvement in free nervous system function in clients. Zen meditation also enhances mood, and a better state of mind can be crucial to helping individuals with a drug dependency resist the temptation to use again. The researchers also found that Zen meditation enhances the hypothalamus and frontal lobe functioning, which enhances self-discipline and helps people conquer dependency. 16 out of the 18 individuals in the study said that they experienced cleansing and rejuvenation of mind and body after a 10-minute Zen meditation session. Participants also reported scalp tingling, whole body heat, and feeling cold. Scientists who use Zen meditation as a treatment say it affects areas of the brain that help individuals successfully go through detox and the recovery process. How to discover it? There are many ways to read more about Zen meditation, including audio programs, online videos, online learning programs, and books dedicated to the subject. You also may find a Zen meditation class, so you can learn a lot from an instructor. Furthermore, there are a range of meditation retreats that last wherever from a weekend to a month or more. Zen meditation retreats are especially well known with tourists in China who want to learn the practice in a Buddhist temple. So depending upon your interest, needs, and budget, there are plenty of ways to find a program that will help you learn Zen meditation techniques. Is Zen meditation right for you? When it pertains to meditation, it is essential to find which type is best suited for you. Research shows that Zen meditation does not always turn out to be a preferred. Actually, in some cases, it is near the bottom of the list. In a 2012 study, college students spent 7 days practicing a particular type of meditation throughout 4 weeks. At the end of the research study, they were asked to rank the meditation practices in order of personal preference. Significantly more individuals ranked Vipassana, or mindfulness, and mantra meditation as higher than Zen and Qigong visualization. Enjoying your meditation practice is crucial to sustaining it over a long time. If you try Zen meditation and it isn't right for you, don't mark down all kinds of meditation. Attempt another type until you find one that is best matched for you. Chapter 2. How to develop Zen presence. Students of Western positive psychology are significantly drawn these days to the concept of mindfulness. It is an interesting proposition with the guarantee of making us more peaceful, more informed, and more psychologically healthy. Nevertheless, the prospect of actually using it in a useful way to life circumstances still seems rather evasive to many. What does one really do when one is being conscious? What is going on in the mind of a mindful individual? Meanings of mindfulness are plentiful. My preferred is, mindfulness is paying attention to the experience of the present moment with calm acceptance of whatever is going on. Some people, specifically illustrators and graphic artists, it seems, tend to confuse mindfulness with meditation, but it is a different and special experience in its own way. The obligatory articles on websites and in popular magazines usually show the stereotypical young, female, hard-body physical fitness fanatic with routing ponytail and form-fitting yoga attire, sitting serenely in the standard lotus position, with eyes closed, upturned hands resting on her knees, and thumbs elegantly touching forefingers. It is a charming image, maybe, but it is by no means any sort of basic portrayal. Surely, The practice of meditation tends to improve somebody's capacity for waking mindfulness, but in fact, meditation includes a unique mindset that Eastern followers like to call mindlessness. The purpose of most meditative practices is to suspend the regular process of focusing and accomplish a state of deep reverie in which one is not thinking about anything in particular. Mindfulness, which is different, is the direct and intense experience of the here and now. It is not tuning out, but precisely the opposite. It is tuning in. It exists, attentive, focused, and ready for action. When you are in a conscious state, you understand, at the same time, of the situation you are in and your inner experience of it. Whether the circumstance includes intense activity or interaction with other people, or just some quiet activity by yourself, your psychological radar antenna is getting the signals of the circumstance and enabling you to deal with it knowingly and successfully. Let us call it Zen presence. The aim of mindfulness practice is to be present to the experience of the instant moment, increasingly more often as part of your participation in the experience of life. Imagine walking into a space, say a business office or a meeting room, and finding a dozen or so people involved in a heated argument. They are tossing criticisms and allegations at one another. As you walk in the door, they become aware of your presence, and they signal their expectation that you will join the fracas and take a side. But now that you are acting from a conscious state, you scan the circumstance, consult your inner advisor, and show rapidly on your purposes for being there and your choices for engagement. You choose not to take the bait. You approximate that you can make a more constructive contribution by not joining any of the factions, but by a process of courteous inquiry that gives you a better grasp of the problem they are struggling with. That is Zen presence. Another name I, in some cases, give to it is vibrant calmness, or peacefulness in action. Zen presence allows you to engage the situation mindfully, without getting mired in it. Before you speak, you scan the room. You notice who the actors are, where they are sitting, how they are behaving, what the conversation pattern appears to be, who is talking the most, who is talking the loudest, who is left. You do a fast biological scan or body scan. How am I feeling? Am I building tension, anxiety, or anger within myself? Is my jaw tense or loose and relaxed? Are my stomach muscles tense or relaxed? Do I notice stress in my neck muscles? Am I tempted to jump in and take a side, or can I stay poised and communicate with them reasonably? Eventually, you will need to choose for yourself how best to engage the situation. You can leave or get included or listen silently. The important thing is that you are making a conscious choice based upon mindful awareness of the situation. Meet your observer. Professionals of Eastern knowledge traditions sometimes mention the observing self, a part of you, so to speak, that hovers silently in the background of your consciousness. Some of them refer to this entity as the witness. Your observer or your witness, whichever you prefer to call it, monitors your ideas, your responses, your impulses, and your behavior in actual time. You have actually most likely heard from this inner self, your observer, a lot of times in your life. There are people who may call it your conscience. Freud and his people called it the superego. If you haven't already done so, perhaps it is time to promote your observer to the leading rank among your numerous selves. You can make your observer your chief advisor. You might find the process easier than you expected. Try to imagine what your observer may look like. How would this entity speak to you? How would he or she or it get your attention when it is time to have a comment on some element of what you are thinking and doing? This is a process you can work with, practice, and develop over time. The more you listen for the voice of your observer, the more clearly you will hear it, the more useful it may be. I will share a personal example, just as a little beginning point. I've often noticed throughout the years that when I blow up or get stressed out, I tend to use blasphemy more regularly than when I am calm. I like to think of the random profane remark as sort of a conversational spice, but not as a primary component. Very typically, when I am in such a circumstance, my observer will report something like, "Increased use of profanity. Are we being stressed?" It is as if a well-trusted consultant is reporting something I have not discovered. There has no valuation offered, no condemnation, no scolding, just a report of the observation. Then, it depends on me. A lot of the time, I find the observation valuable, and I could pause for breath and intelligent action before going ahead with what I am handling. Zen presence becomes typical and natural. The term Zen presence does not need to summon images of a mystical expert figure traveling around, dispensing knowledge, and magically informing people. For the most part, it is not something other individuals will see. It is just a location you come from in your own awareness that allows you to act more reasonably, wisely, and creatively. They'll experience the advantages of your Zen presence, although to them, it will look like typical, natural, mature, and effective behavior. Chapter 3. Falling into Zen. I've been a researcher having a hard time to understand the mysteries of awareness, near-death experiences, and altered states most of my life. Alongside my science, I've also checked out many alternative worldviews from witchcraft to spiritualism and theosophy to chakras. But in spite of their shallow appeal, they all proved deeply unsatisfactory. They provided answers, all right, but the answers were dogmatic and complicated. They did not fit with science, and neither did they result in any new discoveries. Worst of all, their doctrines did not change in reaction to change, but stayed strictly dependent on ancient books or the claims of their advocates. That is, till I came across Zen. I was encouraged to have great doubt, told to investigate, and taught how to do it. Zen is a branch of Buddhism that began as Chan in 7th century China and later spread out east to end up being referred to as Zen in Japan. Though based in the teachings and insights of the historical Buddha, Zen puts far less emphasis on concept and studying texts than do other branches of Buddhism, and far more on practicing meditation to acquire direct experience of somebody's true nature. That might be why, from its appearance in the West in the late 19th century, Zen has interested academics, theorists, and other thinkers who enjoy its weird paradoxes and who do not want to be associated with spiritual practices or dogmatic beliefs. Like science, Zen needs that you ask questions, use disciplined approaches of query, and conquer any ideas that do not fit with what you find out. Certainly, Zen is just like science in being more a set of methods than a body of dogma. Zen has its doctrines and science its theories, but in both cases, these are momentary efforts to comprehend the vast universe, pending much deeper query and more discovery. Zen does not demand that you believe anything or have blind faith, but that you work very hard to discover for yourself. I am not a Buddhist. I have not signed up with any Buddhist orders, adopted any faiths, nor taken any official vows. I say this now because I do not want anybody to think I am writing under false pretenses. Absolutely nothing I say here should be taken as the words of a Zen Buddhist. Rather, I am a person with a questioning mind who has come across Zen and found it tremendously valuable. It has pushed me more and further into the sort of questions I've always asked, including the ones I've chosen to take on in my book, 10 Zen Questions. They're the sort of questions which concern the extremely mind that is asking the question. Calming the mind. Asking these 10 Zen questions both needs and encourages a calm mind. The minds tend not to be calm. Indeed, they tend to hurry about, full of overlapping ideas, pushed here and there by psychological responses, irritated by tunes that go round and round, and normally flashing from one thing to another. It is not possible to take on any question progressively and deeply with a mind in turmoil. How, then, can the mind be calmed? Meditation is the obvious answer, and is the technique I have used. Learning to practice meditation means absolutely nothing more than learning to sit still and focus, staying relaxed and alert without getting tangled up in trains of idea, feelings, or inner conversations. I learned to practice meditation partially out of interest and partially because I was driven by the pain and confusion of life and thought that meditation may help. Later, I discovered that in Zen, there are techniques for training the mind to look hard and stick steadfastly to asking questions, hard questions. The Zen method of inquiry at first seemed rather separate from my science and even antithetical to it, but gradually I came to understand how compatible the two techniques are. As a student in the 1970s, I learned the meditation practice called ZEN, which was referred to as just sitting. I assumed that sitting still, alert, and relaxed, and not doing anything would be simple. But instead, I learned how hard it is. I wanted to keep trying, but, like many individuals, I could not enter into a routine practice of meditation. And then, in 1980, I went to night classes kept in the basement of his Bristol home by John Scoundrel, a prominent university speaker and also a Zen teacher. John was an instructor I could be comfortable with, not a shaven-headed, strange master from the East, but a down-to-earth English academic who had trained with monks and Zen masters and was now adapting his understanding for Westerners like me. Sometimes it is the oddest things that stick in the mind. I remember sitting there one evening with a group of other amateur meditators, struggling to get comfortable, sitting cross-legged on my cushion and looking down at the bare wall in front of me in the basic Zen fashion, when he claimed that our minds must be so calm that we would hear a woodlouse crawling on the floor. In one way or another, this really struck me, and I wanted to be able to hear that woodlouse. I suppose the idea made me understand how much turmoil there was in my mind. There was no stillness in which to hear such a tiny noise. Chapter 4. When Mindfulness is Inadequate. In her book called Mixing Minds, The Power of Relationship in Psychoanalysis and Buddhism, written in 2010, Pilar Jennings notes that it is very possible to have a deep and wealthy spiritual life that enjoys all way of spiritual benefits, while core psychological patterns and has a hard time remain untouched. Without a doubt, mindfulness is a handy tool, but absolutely nothing can replace the healing power of a relationship with a well-trained and devoted listener. In the last few years, there has been a surge of interest in spirituality-based mindfulness meditation practices, and Jennings succinctly describes a phenomenon, normally called a spiritual bypass, that can happen when we try to use these methods to solve mental problems and end up avoiding them instead. Mindfulness meditation increases the ability to live in the present moment and could produce deep insights into the nature of reality, both invaluable tools for crafting a conscious, well-lived life. But these practices were not created to heal a hurt heart. An American Zen instructor I know just recently told me that when people come to speak with her about their anxiety or depression, she frequently suggests that they are supposed to truly be seeing a psychotherapist. Like me, she has come to actually believe that talk treatment, specifically psychodynamic psychotherapy, is more effective than meditation for handling psychological issues, simply because it has the ability to reverse mental patterns and resolve the symptoms that they create. The risk of spiritual bypass. I fell for Buddhist philosophy as a teen and believed that Buddhist meditation held the crucial to magically liquefy the anxiety that had pestered me since childhood. Considering that I privileged Buddhism over Western science, it never occurred to me to turn to the field of psychology for help. As quickly as I graduated from college, I relocated to Japan to study Buddhist meditation with a renowned Zen master. The discipline was rigorous. The floor of the meditation hall was cold, and I found the teacher deeply intimidating, but really felt like I had finally shown up and was sturdily on my way to transcending the vicissitudes of the mundane world. It quickly became apparent, however, that I was also becoming increasingly anxious and depressed, and I started to have frightening visions throughout meditation that left me feeling physically unsteady and disconnected from my body. I made an appointment to see the teacher and tried to tell him about what was going on. He cut me off mid-sentence and chewed me out. "Impressions?" he shouted. "Your feelings and visions are nothing more than impressions. Forget about them. Return to your cushion and focus on your meditation. Just sit." And I did. I went back to my cushion and steeled myself against the emotions of the little girl inside me who was horrified and felt entirely alone, the one he had just obliterated. I went on to meditate for years under the guidance of a series of Japanese and Tibetan Buddhist teachers and became knowledgeable at one-pointed concentration and mindfulness. And I just kept packing down these illusory feelings, till one day in my 50s, when I was walking down a street in Greenwich Town and had a full-blown anxiety attack. I was horrified and called a Buddhist good friend of mine, who also happens to be a psychoanalyst, to ask her what she thought I should do. "You need to talk to somebody," she said. And that is how I wound up on the couch of a social psychoanalyst. The value of talk therapy. All my expert needed me to do was to show up and to talk. And as I began to speak, my psychological body seemed to wake up and find its voice. And, lo and behold, it had a lot to say. I kept talking, and my expert kept listening. One day, as I was nattering on about something that took place when I was a kid, my expert observed silently. "You appear miserable." I began to object, but then stopped. He had heard it. The unhappiness underlying my breakable happiness. And after that, perhaps for the first time, I heard it as well, and started to cry. This crack in my veneer resulted in the ingrained psychological disputes that had been festering in my unconscious for many years. As we began to explore them, I gradually started to feel better, and my lifelong anxiety signs, like an overstated startle response and chronic queasiness, vanished completely. Therapy had the ability to deal with issues that meditation never had. In time, I realized that none of my Buddhist instructors had ever actually listened to what I needed to say. Even with the appearance of a relationship between a meditator and a teacher, when I was carrying out mindfulness meditation practices, I was basically alone. But with my expert, I was not. Chapter 5. 10 Zen Things to Save Your Marriage. Let me begin with a disclaimer. Not all relationship problems can be resolved. neither with the Zen way of life nor with the bravest psychological interventions. Even when you are in a flawless peace with yourself and accept responsibility for your psychological baggage, your partner may continue to blame you for his. Some marital relationships can only be saved with 100 Zen things. Others cannot be saved at all. With this said, a lot of marital relationships can be saved with some reasonably small changes. You owe it to yourself to try. Zen is understanding the flow of life. As a Zen psychologist, I am in the habit of taking a look at parts, an experience, action, particular or event, as connected to the whole, both inside and outside of ourselves. Every little thing comes from an interconnected, ever-changing stream of life. When we begin ripples on our side of the embankment, they often reach the opposite side softly and easily. It suggests that a few changes in us can trigger a domino effect that profoundly touch our life partner. There is no need to change every cork of yourself to prove a significant difference in your marriage. First, let us concentrate on undoing some of the common damaging behavior. 5 Zen things not to do. Number 1. Stop nagging. Address when your feelings get hurt or when the other really annoys you, but bite your tongue when it comes to little, unimportant matters. Snap an elastic band on your wrist. Give him or her $1 if you flop and nag. Whatever it takes, stop nagging. Number 2. Stop watching screens. Technology kills sensual love, whether it is watching TV or YouTube videos on the computer, playing computer games, texting, twittering, or posting. Number 3. Stop using negative rhetoric. Sarcasm and name-calling add unnecessary pain to your relationship. Number 4. Stop a pattern that bothers your partner. Surprise your partner. Pick one conduct and drop it to show your love. And finally, number 5. Stop talking badly about your partner for entertainment. Avoid joking about marriage, neither yours nor anyone else's. It's harmful. 5 Zen matters to do. Number 1. Pay additional attention. Pay close attention to your partner in the first 10 minutes after you get up, and also when you reunite later in the day. Smile at your partner for a few seconds longer. Ask how he feels. Tell him how much you love him. Listen carefully. Kiss and embrace him. You might be shocked, but this is a scientifically proven way to turn things around drastically. Number 2. Take seriously your partner's argument and inner conflicts. Verify your partner's viewpoint. Science supports when partners have the ability to tell the problem from the other's perspective. They are more likely to remain a couple. Number 3. Pay more attention to the mundane. When couples show interest in the regular, they wind up in less divorces. It is fantastic how crucial it is to be heard. It is easy to really love the remarkable, while, in truth, love flourishes on the regular. Number 4. Concentrate on the bigger picture. Gain perspective. When you forget how much you love the other, think of how you will not be able to enjoy her once she will have passed. Picture impermanence in her death, if you have problems changing perspective. And number 5. Say yes to your partner. State yes to the entire, even if you do not like each and every single part. Love is a resounding yes that needs to be repeated usually. Embrace the entire body and say yes, even though some parts may be less than perfect. Frustrations are natural. Bad breath is natural. Love knows to be patient with the bad as it includes the good. Manage the bad. Discuss it. But then see beyond and accept your partner as one interconnected whole. These 10 Zen things work best when both partners practice them together. So, share this list with your partner. Discuss it, change it, improve it. In the end, do not let a good idea spoil because you try to find a simple way out. Many marriages can be saved by accepting that they can be consistent effort. It is typical. Some well-placed changes can go a long way. Chapter 6. The Zen of Working. All of it boils down to work at 90% and let go of the outcome. Let me unload that. Work. That means focus, compartmentalization, or as the Buddhists say, being in the moment. That does not mean hurrying. It means staying focused on doing a pretty good job on your present subtask. 90%. Even if you could sustainably work at 100%, it is most likely ill-advised. There would be a propensity to hurry, make errors, and decrease the pleasure one obtains from dealing with a little bit of breathing time. Let go of the result means that when you are finished with a job, its success runs out of your control. So, take a moment's enjoyment in having actually done the job well, without having overtaxed yourself and then put it out of your mind. Just proceed to the next job, or choose its time for a break or that you have done enough work for the day. Zen and job search. The job search tends to be a medium to long-distance trip, requiring a fair amount of psychological gas. You do not want to go out before reaching your destination. In addition to good job search techniques, Zen is required to improve your gas mileage. Each time you get disappointed, you burn emotional gas. That is true when networking, writing your LinkedIn profile, getting ready for interviews, and the biggest gas guzzler, when, after a lot of work and looking for a job, you get rejected or maybe even worse, neglected. You need not be perfectly zen about everything, but striving for that will help guarantee that you both enjoy the job search process, or at least make it less unpleasant, and more likely that, before running out of gas, you will land a job, the right job. Zen on the job. Your workday very likely consists of tasks you dislike, yet that must be done. Try not to fight or resent it, but keep calm approval, doing the job with focus steadily. Do not focus on getting it done. Concentrate on the tiny part of the task you are working on at the moment. That will make the task less repellent while improving its quality and, yes, get it done without procrastination and with less pain. The takeaway. I completely recognize that it is easier said than done, but do aspire to enjoy crafting whatever it is you are doing. Writing that resume, preparing your discussion, whatever. The objective is to strive for the exact same enjoyment one gets when polishing an avocation, fine-tuning your preferred recipe or softball swing, playing your favorite tune on the guitar. That is a tough objective, but one worth aspiring to. Chapter 7. Zen on the Path. A lot of us will be eager to go out on the tracks to trek and enjoy time in nature. Along with our physical uneasiness, we could also feel a need for spiritual exercise and challenge. A new book by Zen Buddhist academic and devoted hiker Christopher Ives offers us a remarkable and accessible look at customs of Japanese Zen Buddhism, in which long-distance hiking or running belongs to spiritual practice of monks, interwoven with and a practical guide to making our own experiences on the path more meditative and possibly transformative. I find myself concerned about the drivenness that some people take to outside activities like trekking, the attachment to reaching the summit of a mountain, walking a large number of miles in a day, or doing something extreme. In the book, I'm trying to sketch an approach to trekking that is more about slowing down, concentrating, and being totally in nature as nature. I specify it as traveling from someone's home to a remote sacred site, with encounters and difficulties along the way, for the purpose of getting near something effective and acquiring a benefit, whether a spiritual experience, peace of mind, healing, a solution to a problem, or perhaps salvation itself. When trekking is done mindfully as a type of spiritual practice, it can be a type of pilgrimage, for the individual is unplugging, getting away, clearing her head, walking in nature as a kind of spiritual place, coming across power if not mystery, and coming home changed. Zen meditation is quite physical, and it is generally taught as a putting of oneself in the action at hand. Whether breathing in seated meditation, shouting, doing tasks around the monastery, or taking part in creative pursuits. Similarly, the physicality of hiking, particularly when we put ourselves into each step on the path and fall into a rhythm, takes on a meditative quality. Moreover, fully embracing our embodiedness as we breathe, walk, and sweat, and perhaps groan, on the path is one course to the awareness of our embeddedness in a larger world. In my childhood, I spent a lot of time in the woods, and though at that time I didn't know anything about Buddhism or contemplative practices, my jaunts were spiritual journeys insofar as I would lose myself in focusing on the act of fishing, feeling calm as I settled into the rhythm of walking, and stand in wonder of beauty I encountered outdoors. After I started practicing Zen in college, and after that went off to Japan for some years, I realized how similar certain elements of backpacking were to Zen life, and how my practice of Zen was coloring what I did when out on the trail. There was no one particular walking that activated this realization, and in recent years, I've tried to make each of my walkings a kind of spiritual getaway, and for that reason, an expedition. The idea of liminality comes from anthropologist Victor Turner's discussion of how rites of passage and pilgrimages include 3 stages. Number 1. Separation from normal life and society. Number 2. A marginal or liminal state that is a type of spiritual bubble in which typical social markers and statuses don't use. And number 3. The return to society. We see these functions in pilgrimages like the Hajj, and Turner's theory certainly applies to trekking, insofar as we leave regular life with all of the roles, duties, busyness, and tension, and take a break, reflect, recharge, and maybe even change. If approached with openness, attentiveness, and interest, even a walk around the block or simply out to the garden can be an expedition. When I started writing the book, I was thinking my audience would be fellow hikers. But the more I wrote, the more I realized I really wanted the book to speak to all people who like to head outside or yearn to connect more deeply with nature. Practices that I find valuable are taking some deep breaths and collecting oneself at the trailhead before starting to hike, pausing after a few minutes of walking to sign in with each of somebody's senses as a way to attune to what's happening around oneself, slowing down to about 80% of the pace at which one may generally walk, putting oneself into the act of walking, similar to how people pour themselves into the act of breathing when doing seated meditation or yoga, stopping from time to time to take in a person's surroundings and be fully present, finding a stunning spot along the way to meditate or simply rest, and taking as a person's goal for the walk the act of being fully in a location, rather than getting to a summit or finishing the walk rapidly. Basically, this is about moving from ego-driven doing to spirit-filled being. Chapter 8. Zen and zoned out are not the same thing. As a spiritually minded psychotherapist, peace supporter, and student of Buddhism, I really love watching the West wake up to the wisdom of age-old Eastern traditions. It thrills me to know that people are getting deliberate about creating more harmony and stillness in their lives, because I am completely convinced that what the world needs now, above all else, is a more deliberate, more finely attuned sense of awareness and presence among all humans. When I see an indication that we are moving in that direction, I feel gratified and hopeful. But here is the thing. Owning a yoga mat doesn't make you a yogi. Telling people you practice meditation is not the same thing as meditating. And being Zen is not the exact same thing as saying you are. That may sound severe, but I'm making this point for an important reason. In the instant gratification-based society we live in, it is simple to puzzle exposure with understanding. To truly comprehend something, you should immerse yourself in it, exploring it from several angles and trying to acquire as much knowledge about it as possible. And so, it is with spiritual traditions and practices like Zen. The most direct translation of the word Zen is meditation, but the true meaning of Zen cannot totally be expressed in words. Perhaps the closest we can come is to say that Zen is a state of being that includes a sense of connection to a power greater than oneself. It is a lifestyle in the present moment, in fully experiencing reality as it is unfolding, without any preference for what happens. It means knowing the interconnectedness of all living things and flowing with the vast universe. In other words, Zen is an orientation to life that generates a sense of peace, equanimity, acceptance, and contentment. To be Zen is to be committed to keeping clarity and staying grounded in the present moment, no matter how challenging it is to do so. In our culture, when people speak about getting Zen or being Zen, they are generally referring to something along the lines of relaxing, reducing stress, slowing down, or finding peace. And that is a wonderful thing. But soothing down is not necessarily the exact same thing as finding Zen. The reason this difference matters is that typically our efforts to relax include taking a look at or numbing ourselves to what is going on, and that is not Zen at all. To adopt a Zen mindset, it is to be at one with whatever we are experiencing, without attempting to control or change it so we can feel better. When we experience Zen, we are acknowledging and accepting what is, rather than trying to make it something else. Although there isn't an explicit goal in Zen practice, the purpose is to create greater consciousness and gratitude for what is going on in the present moment. When we puzzle zoning out for Zen, we sell ourselves accept experiencing everything that can unfold and open up for us what we accept that we are feeling, rather than trying to OM it away. There is a commonly used expression among therapists and healers that says, "The only way out is through." This simple statement speaks to the distinction between numbing out and knowing Zen. It is simple to take a look at of the present moment by switching on a meditation CD or lighting some candles. But I challenge you to make your practice deeper than that. Do not settle for artificial peace. Practice loving and staying present with whatever is happening in the present moment, no matter how unpleasant it may be, and know that true peace awaits you on the other side. This has been Zen, Beginning on the Path, Mindfulness, and Inner Peace. Written by Evie Harrison. Narrated by Mary Johnson. Copyright 2020 by Evie Harrison. And production copyright by Evie Harrison. The end. This is Zen, the Zen mindset in love, relationships, and business. Written by Evie Harrison. Narrated by Mary Johnson. Copyright 2020 by Evie Harrison. And production copyright by Evie Harrison. Chapter 1. What is Zen? There is more to Zen than just the Japanese tea ritual. Zen is a lot like that, apparently filled with unrealistic contradictions. It is difficult to explain it to an individual who constantly thinks rationally. It is easier to explain it to a person who habitually thinks poetically. Zen is about expanding sensible thinkers into logical and poetic thinkers. While the discernment of logical idea is not lost, the complementary perspective of a poetic and spiritual sensibility is added. Logical or clinical thinking is dualistic, either or, right or wrong, good or bad, yes or no, and so on. Poetic or holistic thinking is unitary and unifying, both and, yes, and so on. There is more to Zen than the Japanese tea event. Interest sensible thinkers. It is certainly true. There is no more to Zen than the Japanese tea event. Interest holistic thinkers, who comprehend intuitively the macro in the micro, the entire from one of its perfect parts. This is the vision of poet William Blake, who wrote of seeing a world in a grain of sand and paradise in a wildflower. How then might a rational thinker become, in addition, a poetic thinker? This is the necessary transformation that Zen practice teaches. 3 key aspects are included. The first 2 are sitting meditation, or zazen, and work on an obviously impenetrable riddle, the koan. Zen started as a disrobed form of more conventional Buddhism and thrived specifically in Japan, where it has kept a monastic spiritual format. Monks lead an extremely regulated and disciplined life. In current times, and that includes in spots outside Asia, Zen instructors have set up training centers for ordinary lay people, but the focus on routine practice and self-control remains. Ultimately, the strong meditative mind can begin work on a koan. The best known, just because of its patent absurdity, is, what is the sound of one hand? Clearly, the answer is not clapping. Another koan emerges when the Zen teacher invites the pupil to show me the face that was yours, even before you were born. A sensible thinker would be tempted to turn away at this point. Giving time to ponder such a riddle would seem a waste. However, this is where the third essential element of Zen enters play, the devotional relationship between instructor and pupil. Zen teachers can trace their family tree from pupil to master back for many centuries. It is the equivalent in Christendom to the laying on of hands from one bishop to the next in an unbroken chain. In each case, the Zen instructor offers the exact same kind of respect and dedicated dedication to his pupil as he once provided to his master, and him to his. No obvious affection may be included, but an unspoken kind of thoughtful and selfless love typically is. That devotional, loving respect functions as a catalyst for the earnest pupil's transformation. When the instructor asks you to work on the riddle and present him with a solution, it is handled faith that he wouldn't ask you to undertake a useless job, so you set to work. You meditate and assess the koan. You hold it in your mind each waking moment and even remember it throughout the hours of sleep. What happens is the progressive breaking down of your trust in the sensible approach of thinking as the sole way of attending to such a riddle. One hand cannot clap by itself, so there should be some other answer. Perhaps, eventually, you begin to sweat. the effort becomes extraordinary. It ends up being psychological. You experience confusion, doubt, and anxiety initially, then maybe anger and making no development. Next, you feel guilty, as you are lured to let up on the effort and shame at your lack of development. These are the feelings of sorrow, of loss and releasing, the feelings of change. Finally, cathartic tears flow and the hoped-for development arrives. You can see through the riddle to the great, holistic truth at its heart. Relief, joy, and satisfaction overwhelm you. The master is smiling as you approach, knowing already from your new demeanor that the hoped-for revolution has taken place. In Zen circles, this experience is referred to as Kensho. Till this happens, the person and the world are separate from and complete strangers to one another. Afterwards, however, there is free communion. The person is harmoniously joined to the world, a crucial landmark of spiritual development, whereby the daily ego is equally reunited with the true spiritual self, has been reached. Koan-like riddles take place throughout scriptures from many religions. Moses sees a shrub that is blazing without being consumed by the fire. Exodus 3:2. A virgin conceives in her womb and bears a boy. Luke 1:31. They also show up frequently in many branches of science, who, for instance, except Einstein, would have thought that energy and matter, while certainly different, were also the same and interconvertible? If you are a mainly rational thinker, why not investigate Zen? It could prove highly worthwhile. Chapter 2. Asking the Zen Questions. How do you answer questions like, "Who am I?" "When is this?" or "What am I doing?" Well, there is the standard way of using the intelligence: talking, thinking, arguing with others, doing clinical work or philosophy. Then there is meditation. My book, 10 Zen Questions, is all about how I spent years and many singular retreats grappling with such questions on my own. The answers, if answers there are, aren't what I had expected. So how did I approach it? The questions developed in numerous ways. Some had largely intellectual roots and came out of my clinical research studies. For instance, the first question, "Am I mindful now?" is an apparent beginning point when you are battling intellectually with the mystery of awareness. Yet, even this easy question begins to have weird results if you keep asking it. Do try. Ask it now, and then again after you have read a few more lines. The second, "What was in my consciousness a moment ago?" was influenced by the influence of that first question on the students who took my awareness course. I got them to ask themselves the questions lots of times a day, all week, and I did the exact same. That had weird results on all of us and even changed their lives in deep ways, and together we worked on the questions again and again. By contrast, some of the questions are timeless Buddhist ones, such as, "How does thought show up?" Throughout the years, I tackled this one during 3 official Mahamudra retreats, but ultimately, I chose to tackle it again on my own. I wanted to practice meditation all alone in the mountains, in my own time, even if the prospect was a bit creepy. So I drove up into the Welsh mountain to the Melwyn on my own, taking enough food and other arrangements for 5 or 6 days in the old farmhouse, with its temperamental kitchen range and no gas, electricity, or phone reception. I kept milking yogurt in the stream, other provisions in the mouse-proof boxes, and managed quite well. Before I went, I prepared a daily routine, primarily of half-hour sitting periods with short breaks between. I took no reading materials apart from the few pages of Mahamudra text and tried to be mindful as much as I could. For some days, I never ever saw another human being or heard any voice or music or human sounds. This is absolutely nothing contrasted with the many sages who have spent years in freezing mountain caverns, but it is a start. The final two questions are timeless Zen koans. There are many Zen tales of odd interactions between masters and monks, with different endings or intellectually ridiculous twists. Koans are used to help shake the student out of attachment or complacency, to motivate insight, or to encourage the great doubt. John's own instructor, Shang Yen, stresses terrific faith, great doubt, and great upset persistence as the basis of Zen practice. Koans can motivate all of these, as I learned on a series of koan retreats, where you work on the same question for a whole week. I found the koans really powerful, which may be why they have endured through many centuries and can still be practical to people like you and me, in greatly different civilizations from that in which they were first conceived. Finally, I dealt with some of the questions on singular retreats in the home. We had a relatively big garden, with veggies, a little orchard, a greenhouse, and a wooden summer house, truly more like an elegant garden shed. It is lined with old and faded velvet curtains, and with the addition of a mat, cushion, meditation stool, and a few other things, was quickly turned into a meditation hut. It was midwinter at the time, and I didn't want to freeze, so I also took a kettle, tea things, a warm water bottle, and several other comforts. Although I slept inside the house, I determinedly stayed away from the phone, email, post, and any other interruptions when I went inside the home during the night. And otherwise, I just avoided there in the garden all the time, doing about 6 hours of meditation with no timeouts. This is what I did. First, I spent some hours just relaxing the mind. Then I would find the question just popping up on its own, and I would start tackling it methodically. Some questions lend themselves to a branching tree of possibilities. Others practically immediately throw out into direct experience. For example, what is the distinction between the mind resting in serenity and the mind moving in thought? Is a real killer. Presumably, this is the reason why it is used in Mahamudra training. It sounds at first like a question that may have a response, but then you realize that to answer it, you must recognize with the mind resting in tranquility, hard. Then you should be able to observe the mind moving an idea, difficult in a totally different way. Then you, most likely, have to compare them. By this time, the question itself seems irrelevant, and the expedition of the foundation much more so. I'm explaining this partially to demonstrate how I go about the 10 questions, but partially to make it clear that my method is not that promoted in most Zen training. Certainly, in Zen, one is often reminded that thought is the adversary, and in general, all sorts of thinking are discouraged. I did a lot of thinking because it was the best tool I had available for checking out the 10 questions, and just because this kind of thinking forms a bridge between my Zen practice and my science. I've dared to call them Zen questions because I really believe they all get right to the point of the Zen endeavor, to expose the nature of self and mind and to realize non-duality. Over the next few chapters, I will be writing about my battles with these questions. You might like to start yourself on the journey I and so many of my students have undertaken. Chapter 3. Zen and the Neurobiology of Letting Go of Your Ego. Some days ago, I was employed by a California-based startup as a ghostwriter to produce some fresh site content checking out the intersection between peak efficiency, neuroscience, and getting in the so-called zone. Prior to a getting-to-know-you phone interview for the job, I put together a brief bullet point list of 5 points of difference that make my neuroscience-based approach to athletic competition and creating flow unique. First, there is the regular, everyday flow state, which is simple to dial up by matching skill and challenge levels. Second, there are episodic bursts of ego-dissolving and ecstatic, incredible flow, which can happen anytime you truly lose yourself while performing any verb-based activity that can be turned into a gerund by adding ing, as in running, cycling, swimming, singing, skiing, rock climbing, playing tennis, writing, drawing, making art, and so forth. The etymology of the word ecstasy comes from the age-old Greek principle of standing outside oneself. Based upon my daily life experience of pursuing sweat and the biology of bliss, I know that during moments of wonder, when I feel completely linked to something much larger than myself, and just as if every cell in my body is imitating a channel for some outside source of energy, is when I am most inclined to let go of my ego. But how does somebody let go of their ego? Naturally, releasing somebody's ego is an abstract principle that can easily transgress into woo-woo area. For the record, I am not a new agey individual. I do not like checking out woo-woo subjects without including some science-based evidence and relatable examples to support a hypothesis. Ever since I was a kid in the 1970s, my two prime driving forces of daily motivation have been pop culture and making myself a human guinea pig in real-world neuroscience experiments. While I have been affected by some timeless books, the majority of my inspiration originates from leading 40 music and the everyday pursuit of tweaking the architectural, electrical, and chemical environment of my brain in ways in which produce euphoric states of consciousness. Over the past few days, I have done a deep dive into my memory banks and tried to connect the dots of a sequential timeline that explains how I discovered some wacky Zen-like ego-dissolving approaches that are rooted in neuroscience. This writing is an actual result of that thought experiment. Last night, I tossed and turned since my brain was trying to connect the dots of all these random life experiences, many literary passages I have memorized, and several neuroscience-based approaches into something easy to digest and direct. Finally, I forfeited on trying to fall back to sleep, got out of bed in the pre-dawn hours, and began stream of consciousness typing what you read now. When you are in quick eye movement sleep, the VOR unclamps in a way that allows your eyes to zoom back and forth while you are dreaming. When you are conscious and lock your eyes onto a target and move the head from side to side, while your tongue is relaxed for several minutes, it is easy to lose yourself in a dreamlike, transcendent state. Chapter 4. A Zen Mind in Relationships. 3 Zen masters, one from Korea, one from Vietnam, and one from the United States, have offered effective mentors to keep us from hurrying to judgment about others, mentors that can save a relationship. Korean Zen master Seung San liked to instruct his students to keep a do-not-know mind, so that they wouldn't hold on to their fixed ideas about the world and about people. He said, if you keep a do-not-know mind, then your mind is clear like space and clear like a mirror. Master Seung San came to the United States in 1972 and settled in Providence, Rhode Island, where he fixed cleaning machines for several years, although he was already a Zen master in Korea. As his English improved, students gathered around him. In 1983, He established the School of Zen. By the time of his death in 2004, his schools were all over the world, including but not limited to Moscow and Tel Aviv. The globally known Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh offered his own gloss on Do Not, No Mind. He motivates us to always ask, "Am I sure?" before our company believe our instant perceptions. He likes to use the example of how we panic if we see a serpent in the dark, but when we shine a light on it, we see that it is only a rope. In fact, he suggests that we write, "Am I sure?" on a paper and tape it to a place where we will see it often. Charlotte Joko Beck was a pianist and piano teacher who started Zen practice in her 40s after raising 4 kids. She established the Ordinary Mind Zen School. Because she taught her students to work with their emotions instead of avoiding them, she attracted many people who were interested in the relationship between Zen and psychology. Numerous of her Dharma successors are practicing psychologists and psychiatrists. In her book, Absolutely Nothing Special, Joko Beck recommends a practice to help us keep an open mind about others. Whenever we say an individual's name, notice whether we have stated more than a reality. An example would be the following. The judgment, "She is senseless," exceeds the facts. "She said she'd call me and she didn't." When I initially got sick, I hurried to judgment about friends who did not keep in close touch. I didn't keep a don't know mind. Neither did I ask, "Am I sure?" before judging their intents. After years of bitterness, I realized I was wrong about those intentions. Whether healthy or ill, all of us are specialists at spinning stress-filled stories about others. Mine were along the lines of, "She does not care about me now that I am ill," and Joko Beck's, "She is senseless." In truth, you do not know what is going on with other individuals unless you ask. A good friend might not be in touch because she's having work or family issues. Maybe she thinks she'd be disturbing you. Perhaps she's awkward around disease. Perhaps she has medical problems of her own. How would you know if you do not ask? Maybe it is time to let a relationship go and carry on. But before you do, consider reaching out to whoever is disappointing you. Keep that don't know mind. Ask, "Am I sure?" Stick to the bare facts. "She did not call me," before you rush to judgment. This was a lesson I wish I had learned before I got sick. One summertime, just as I was about to leave town to go on a 10-day meditation retreat, I got an email from the dean at the law school where I was teaching. The subject was my teaching load for fall term. I read his words and interpreted them to mean that he was questioning my willingness to teach my fair share. Instead of sticking to the bare facts in the email, I hurried to the conclusion that I was being adversely judged, and so, in turn, judged him negatively. I wish I had had that paper taped to the wall, asking, "Am I sure?" Then I probably would have contacted the dean before leaving town. Instead, I went to the quiet retreat, which ended up being anything but silent in my poor, tortured mind. I spun so many stories about that email, it's awkward to recall. I was unhappy. As quickly as I got home, I called the dean. It ended up he was concerned that my teaching load was too heavy. When I reread his email, I could see that it could well have been translated that way. How I could have gained from keeping a do not know mind on that retreat. Before believing the story you have spun about the ones who are disappointing you, consider reaching out to them. You really need only consider it. It took a disease and some sound judgment Zen mentors for me to learn how typically I'd misjudged the good intents of good friends and colleagues. Chapter 5. Zen and the Human Heart. Someone asked me the other day if my Zen practice helps me with personal relationships. I laughed. They continued, "Definitely it must somehow. All of the years of practice and assisting Zen students, no?" I laughed again. Meditation practice grants us no exemption from the pleasures and challenges of intimate attachments. The word attachment itself cuts both ways. A life-giving, nourishing bond of mutuality, and something we get snagged on, usually without becoming conscious of it, possibly causing ourselves and sometimes the other suffering. Both can happen in deep personal relationships. Meditation practice can help keep space open, individually and relationally, but it must be actually practiced in the moment, not just on our cushion and not just by principles. Can we mobilize the capability to stand, to bear witness, to hang in, to see ourselves, feel ourselves, awkward though it might be? It is one thing in the meditation hall, or in nature, or when things are working out in a relationship, or when the other is experiencing something distressful unrelated to me. It is quite another in a moment of disjuncture, specifically when the self is implicated, when it costs us something, when our most valued beliefs and self-concepts are modified. I have seen meditation specialists use the principles of transfer, projection, even resonance, intellectually, defensively, without having a clue when they are at play. For therapists and other versed in relational and mental dynamics personally and expertly, meditation can help cultivate the capacity to just be with our experience in ways in which improve and match classical psychological therapy. An unforgettable Zen story about letting go. There is a typical Zen story of releasing what is told in many different variations. One of my favorites appears in a book for young readers by John J. Muth called Zen Shorts. Two taking-a-trip monks reached a town where there was a girl waiting to get out of her sedan chair. The rains had made deep puddles, and she couldn't step across without ruining her silken robes. She stood there looking very cross and restless. She was scolding her attendants. They had nowhere at all to place the packages they held for her, so they could not help her across the puddle. The younger monk noticed the woman, said nothing, and walked by. The older monk rapidly picked her up and put her on his back, transported her across the water, and put her down on the opposite side. She didn't thank the older monk. She just pushed him out of the way and departed. As they continued on their way, the young monk was brooding and preoccupied. After several hours, unable to hold his silence, he spoke up. "That lady back there was really selfish and impolite. But you picked her up on your back and carried her. Then she did not even thank you." "I set the woman down hours ago," the older monk responded. "Why are you still carrying her?" It feels good to let go. Not when other people tell us to let go and proceed, but when we ourselves see the requirement of it. Letting go does not mean forgetting or suppressing the other person's conduct. It means protecting ourselves from the destructive results of staying stuck. Persistent anger and bitterness dissipate our energy and sap our creative skill. Each of us has a certain amount of energy that fuels our spirit. If 5% or 75% of that energy is directed towards caring somebody who has wronged us, then that exact same portion is not available for other pursuits. If we hold on to our anger from the past, we won't be completely in the moment, nor can we move forward into the future with our future potential for optimism and hope. We don't really need to forgive a particular bad action when the other person fails to really acknowledge the wrong they have done in our lives. But we do really need, in time, to dissipate its emotional charge. We need to accept the reality that in some cases, the wrongdoer is unreachable and unrepentant, and we have an option regarding whether to carry the wrongdoing on our shoulders or not. Chapter 6. Zen and Business Mindset. Akira writes, "The golf swing is a challenging thing to master. There are countless moving parts that all need to interact in perfect unison, all in the span of a flash. A defect in any part of the swing can produce erratic results. The trouble is, finding and repairing the defect can appear like an unbelievable job. It is humanly impossible to recall and then do exactly what is supposed to happen at each moment of your swing. So golf players have turned to swing ideas, easy ideas that allow you to focus on one element of the swing. Good swing ideas cause a chain reaction of proper technique, so one idea can influence the characteristics of your whole swing. Golf legend Arnold Palmer's top swing thought was keep your head stable, and this idea alone has transformed the games of countless start players. You can apply this swing thought principle to your entrepreneurial venture too, and I think it will have a similarly transformative influence. Here is one you can try. End up being cash flow positive. When Akira sent me his blog post and asked me what my swing idea was, it sort of stymied me. You see, I took lessons from this school that teaches the zen of golf, not the mechanics of golf swings. Hence, I was led by this incredible practice to a place of non-duality, where I could stop thinking and be totally present in the swing. The exceptional thing is that it worked. I began hitting better, and honestly, didn't care about it. I have realized that I approach business in the same Zen mind, no mind manner, to end up being totally present in the bliss of doing work I really love, and releasing ideas of success and failure. Truth be told, over the few months, I have been having so much fun developing new products, dealing with incredible consulting clients, developing the future, and totally immersed myself in the pleasure of innovation. Anyhow, I've learned that if you can be in a state of real flow, something like being cash flow positive or focused on your core strengths is the natural development of such a state. Just because making a ton of money and doing what you are proficient at is truly fun. All you need to do is follow your bliss and your adrenaline. Besides, I do have to caution that being fully present in the happiness of business is only possible if you work with the right partners, suppliers, and clients. It is pretty tough to be in happiness when your boss is a bully or management mishandles. Therefore, I thank my lucky stars for having the best consumers and partners in the world who can match my ability to be in the present moment and execute in a state of peak performance with me. That is partnership at a greater level. This is the achievement of what I call brand fullness, sort of the corporate equivalent of mindfulness, in which each action is imbued with outright awareness, precision, and integrity. It is the essence of being what you claim you are. Apple has mastered this, and so can you. Chapter 7. Love and Zen. How do you go beyond challenge and live up to your human potential? Are you a greater or an evildoer? If you say you are bad, you definitely should concede that even you have done good in the past. If you hold yourself in higher esteem and declare yourself to be good, you undoubtedly will admit to having actually done something bad in the past. Everyone knows that human beings have the potential for being both good and bad, depending on what side gets supported by our culture, our personal environment, and us, the individual. Americans, and specifically psychologists, give disproportional weight to the latter condition. I am certainly guilty. finding it remarkable why some turned good while having actually seen and received little of it, rising like lotus flowers from muddy grounds. So, how do you do it? Strength, nerve, faith, optimism. Many answers spring to mind, but no single one seems to hit the mark. I do not even know why I myself had the ability to leave the beaten path of my family's suffering, which spread out from generation to generation. I do not think I was overflowing with terrific qualities as listed above. I know I was not an optimist. I just wanted to live and wished for liberation, which ultimately led me to write something about joy. I think we all share this yearning. The seed for transcendency lies within all of us. As far as our natural nature goes, let us take this in. We are no rats. Rats are not social as far as other rats go, but stroll the nights all on their own for food and shelter, trying hard to outshine other rats. We, on the other hand, are motivated not just by our desire to supersede the other, but by empathy and concern for others. Gerd Gigerenzer, author of Suspicion and scientist in the field of human intuition, writes, "We donate blood for strangers, contribute to charity, and penalize violators of social standards. In contrast to other primates, we people not only give and share outside our families, or when sharing proves costly, but we can get mad if someone doesn't. Research studies show that people do not maximize their gain, even when they plainly could. In a so-called warning game, two people who don't see one another and will not meet again were made either a proposer or responder. If both agreed on an amount between $0 and $10, both keep the money. If they do not agree, neither player receives anything. It was impressive that both players were more worried about equity than self-interest. And the players who feel cured unjustly chose to win nothing before taking an unjust amount. Gigerenzer concludes that we humans all have a capacity for selflessness unmatched in the world of primates. Anybody, I conclude, can make use of this unmatched capability. If you yearn to become more effective, you can go that path. If you yearn to declare your inherently human credit to love beyond all reason, you can go that path also. The point is, you can transcend the set boundaries of your specific life. You can learn how to open your eyes, change course spontaneously, and end up being kind when nobody has ever revealed you how to be kind. This is so as you are human, capable of the absolute worst atrocities, capable of senseless acts of compassion. I'm not suggesting that we can sit down and choose between taking the more or less beaten path of life. I do not think we are that cerebral. However, we can all let ourselves become filled with a yearning for love and abstain from settling for less than the fulfillment of our human potential. The technique after that isn't to wait on a true miracle, a significant change of external conditions, a prince on a white horse who comes to the rescue. Our human potential comes about only when we grow up to be women and men, presuming responsibility, declining to be victims. Resentment and passivity are not known to supply the fertile ground for change. I still do not completely comprehend how we make it to the light, but as soon as we yearn for the light and start turning to it, we appear to be on the way. The Zen of love cannot be a thing, a step, or secret code. It can only be our own potential, obstructing opportunities to be found all over, in the murkiest water and the muddiest soil. Chapter 8. Meditation for Beginners. Given all of the disquieting things around us concerning the volatility of the world economies and stock markets, jobs, and so on, and how the powerlessness that people feel has crossed over into anger and rage. I thought it would be a great time to learn how to calm our minds. Now, I will admit that I am not a person who has ever had the ability to do that. In fact, I have coveted people who seem to be able to do that through meditation. So I turned to Doc Aaron, a Los Angeles-based, multiple-certified transformational coach and one of the best explainers of treatment methods I have ever met. And I asked him, "Doc, given all of the upset in the world, I think this is a time for many individuals to learn to silence their mind, just because all of the reactivity is serving no one. I include myself in that group, and I would love to learn how to practice meditation. What is meditation?" And he answered, "You can look at meditation in some different ways, as a tool, an ability, a discipline, an art, and a science. As a transformative practice, meditation is vital to something referred to as integral life proficiency. Ultimately, though, as you continue to change and awaken, meditation evolves beyond all these terms into a way of being in the world. In most basic terms, meditation is a way of engaging the mind to go beyond the mind." I followed up on his response by clarifying, "Engaging the mind to surpass the mind. How does that happen?" And Doc Aaron replied, "As a practice, meditation uses concentration and silent contemplation through deep physical relaxation for experiencing an ever deeper awareness of yourself in such a way that it triggers insight and eventually change." And I wanted to know, where does meditation come from? He explained that meditation as a practice has been around in one form or another for a very long time. In regards to recorded history, meditation methods from different societies and traditions everywhere in the world have been written something about and improved upon for more than 5,000 years. Though, since meditation is really a natural function of the human body, mind, it was almost certainly a practice of prehistory too. If you have ever looked into a flickering fire, you can just envision what practicing meditation while sitting before a sacred flame may have been like throughout shamanic spiritual practices ages ago. In truth, meditation is an ancient practice that has been highly valued, handed down, discovered, and innovated on by generation after generation for millennia. So what is the value of doing meditation? What are the benefits? Currently, there are actually over 2,000 clinical research studies documenting hundreds of physical, mental, emotional, energetic, and spiritual advantages you receive from meditation. And while there are a lot of to list here, Michael Murphy's book, The Physical and Mental Results of Meditation, is a really good place to begin. Eventually, the real value and benefit of meditation is found in your intent, your efforts, and what works for you right now, all of which will identify how you do meditation. So what does meditation lead to then? That depends. Consider that an essential meditation belongs to a total life practice, the purpose of which is to help you evolve, deepen, and awaken in all measurements of your being. Certain spiritual customs have a really intriguing notion that before you can know who you are, you must first know who you are not. This is referred to as the way of subtraction, via negativa, or neti-neti. And in essence, what it does in part is that because of our years of conditioning and habituation while growing up, we do not really know who or all that we truly are. In a very real sense, we suffer from a case of mistaken identity. For instance, if you were someone who is completely related to your thoughts and your thinking, suggesting you quote-unquote think you are your ideas, then meditation can help you experience something rather deep by beginning to observe or witness your thoughts. What happens is you understand a really important and life-altering difference. You are not your thoughts. Rather, you have thoughts. Put simply, you can't be what you can witness. For that reason, your thoughts are not you. In the same way, in meditation, you can realize that you are not your emotions, but you have emotions. Another step farther, and you can realize you are not your beliefs, but have beliefs. And farther still, you can understand something that is even more freeing and liberating. You are not your ego, but you have an ego too. Through regular meditation practice, you come to realize each of these insights, not just intellectually as so much info in your head, but through direct experience. And as you do, you are seeing more of who you really are. By witnessing your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, and your ego in a healthy way, you are continuously converting what was initially the subject of your attention into an object of your attention. You then go beyond and include each of these in your awareness. In time, these states of consciousness you experience in meditation become stable and continuous and mature into new, higher stages of personal development, which generate a totally new reality tunnel or view of the world. So let me say more about that. Through meditation, you come to realize that who you are is no longer sourced in your mind or body, or even your ego personality, but in something else, something deeper that exists previous to all of these different elements of yourself. Who you are is now sourced in awareness. Think about this. Your reality is what you pay close attention to. So what do I mean that paying attention is your reality? If, like most people, you spend your whole life and all of your time repeatedly taking notice of your thoughts and emotions, you are going to become absolutely identified with them, right? Well, then who will you think you are? Your thoughts and emotions. As a result, you will end up being highly attached to them. Let me tell you why. Because rather just, you think they are you, and anybody or anything that seems to threaten them will be threatening to you, and you will get really upset. The same specific thing goes for your beliefs and your ego as well, and that is why we jokingly say it is all a case of mistaken identity. So what can you do in case you happen to be connected to what is working against you? If you decide to stop and turn your attention from your ideas and emotions and back towards your awareness, what will happen? If you hang around bringing your attention back to awareness, being aware of awareness, with time, you will understand that you are consciousness itself. And when you start to rest in that awareness, your body and mind begin to integrate and work together in consistency like never previously. Now, since you are truly a multidimensional being, you actually consist of three main centers of awareness. The awareness center, which is situated in your head, the feeling awareness center located at your heart, and the body intelligence and vital force center known as the hara, located right below your navel in your body. By turning your attention to any one of these centers in meditation, you can experience yourself from that specific center of awareness. Awareness, the heart, or beingness, will we say. Ultimately, resting in meditation in all three centers of awareness all at once is an extensive experience of oneself as a truly multidimensional being. So how do you do this meditation? What do you do? In general, in this meditation, you will bring your attention back to awareness over and over again. You continue to cultivate the meditative state by relaxing more and more deeply while refining your attention back on awareness itself. Also, it is good to bring certain positive personal qualities to your practice to help guarantee you experience an easier, more pleasurable, and more rewarding meditation. The most vital quality is sincerity. Sincerity gives rise to other qualities as a natural expression of your honest intent that includes such things as a balance of perseverance and patience, together with a step of self-kindness and trust as you give up to a process that takes some time and effort. So how about giving you an example to try at this moment to experience what I have been clarifying to you? Well, that's a great idea. At times, feeling is believing. Let us try an example that we will call the awareness of awareness meditation. The awareness of awareness meditation consists of 3 basic steps. Step 1. Look at an object. Step 2. End up being conscious of your awareness. And Step 3. Observe awareness. First, find yourself a good, silent place where you will be undisturbed and free from any diversions. It is best to set aside a bit of time, say any place from 20 to 30 minutes for beginners. Make sure you are wearing comfortable clothes and being in a comfy position where your spine is fairly straight and you won't become worn out in that position during the meditation. Now, allow yourself to unwind your entire body with several good deep, sluggish breaths. Next, to heat up, find an item in the room and notice the following 3 things. The thing you are taking a look at, the space or range between you and the thing, and you. Now, release the object, move your attention away from it, and notice there is a consciousness that is looking through your eyes now. Not thought, but awareness. Awareness isn't thought. Awareness is that which understands idea. Become aware of your awareness. Now, close your eyes and observe your awareness. There is your attention, and there is awareness. Turn your attention to your awareness. Just let go and notice there is awareness. Awareness is empty. You are not attempting to observe any item. It is just seeing awareness. Become present to your awareness. Observe awareness and stay with that. And that is it. Turn your attention away from any ideas or emotions and straight towards consciousness itself, and stick with that for the duration of your meditation. I will repeat those essential steps to the meditation once again. The 3 simple steps to the awareness of awareness meditation are the following. Step 1. Look at an item. Step 2. Become mindful of your awareness. And Step 3. Observe awareness. And one last thing. Remember, proficiency of anything is about practice, regularly putting what you know into action so you can experience the transformation you desire. As you do, you will find the practice of awareness will help you to rest progressively in a genuine and peaceful state of non-attachment as you understand yourself more totally in body, mind, soul, and spirit. So practice makes perfect. Perhaps if you let go of perfection, you can quiet your mind, which is an excellent thing to meditate about. So I hope that helps you to silence your mind. This has been Zen, the Zen mindset in love, relationships, and business. Written by Evie Harrison. Narrated by Mary Johnson. Copyright 2020 by Evie Harrison. And production copyright by Evie Harrison. The end. This is Zen. Relieve stress and anxiety through mindfulness and meditation. Written by Evie Harrison. Narrated by Mary Johnson. Copyright 2020 by Evie Harrison. And production copyright by Evie Harrison. Chapter 1. Zen and Rejection Handling. In some occupations, like the publish or perish world of academia, rejection is the norm. In my own field of social psychology, scientists carefully craft detailed documents defining their programs of research, several research studies over which they could have meticulously labored for 2, 3, or 4 years. Even after the research itself is finished, the researcher could spend months analyzing and reanalyzing his or her information, and after that, months more writing and rewording the paper to plainly communicate the profound advances contained therein. In spite of all the labor, the leading research journals reject totally 9 out of 10 of the documents they get. The reviews are typically bluntly negative, noting defect after defect in the logic of the arguments and the credibility of the data supporting those arguments, and maybe observing that the research question itself is not all that critical after all. I just returned from a meeting of 4,000 social and personality psychologists from around the globe, lots of whom are young assistant professors hoping to win period, or even more youthful doctoral students intending to win a job as an assistant professor, at which time they too can start fretting about whether they will win tenure. Each of these people has huge potential, having already proved their intellectual expertise, conscientiousness, and creativity. The typical person at the conference has an IQ in the top 1 or 2% of mankind, as verified by their stellar grades and excellent scores on the GREs, or graduate level evaluations, which are a lot like the SATs, but for people who are now finishing college and dream to get a PhD. Besides evidencing high levels of intelligence, anyone accepted into a PhD program also managed to convince their professors to write letters raving about their ambition, conscientiousness, writing capabilities, intrinsic interest in psychology, and well-rounded creative luster. Ironically, being a top-level honors student all their lives has handicapped them, because their instructors have showered them with radiant feedback, though plastering gold stars, smiley deals with, and full marks all over their essays and book reports. Tons of these fantastic young researchers have very little experience managing negative feedback. When they submit their first paper to a clinical journal, though, there is a 90% chance that, after waiting for an additional 2 to 4 months, they will be the recipient of an evaluation letter that begins something like, "I have asked 3 experts in the field to assess your paper, and based on the many problems they explain, I'm sorry to notify you that I will deny to publish your paper in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology." After a lifetime of easy A's, they have worked tougher than they have ever worked previously, only to get a failing grade. Their response is likely to involve some mix of intense shock and psychological pain. I lectured at the opening session of the Society for Personality and Social Psychology's conferences as part of a symposium in which 3 senior scientists talked on the general topic, "What I Dream I Would Understand Then." The seminar was aimed to help those appealing young academics learn something from us experienced elders about how to do well in an academic profession. My talk was entitled, "The Zen of Embracing Rejection." I typically judge the success of my talks by the number of laughs I hear, and by this criterion, the talk worked out. Besides producing a lot of laughter, I actually believe that the talk also created a lot of sighs of relief. This is why. because I let them in on a filthy little secret. The most successful people in the field have also seen more than their share of rejection letters. I tried to give these young scientists some advice that I think definitely applies to lots of other endeavors as well. Accepting failure with an open mind can usually be the fastest course to success. Several years back, when I was still a young professor, I remember a conversation between two of the most effective people in the field. Those were two prominent teachers, Charles S. Carver and David Kenny, whose articles had appeared in all of the major journals and gone on to have enormous scientific effect, as judged by thousands of citations by other clinical researchers. But instead of basking in their great success, these two superstars were discussing their strategies for managing rejection letters. It rapidly ended up being clear that both of them had seen many rejection letters. This was especially beneficial for me to hear at the time, because I had just gotten several rejection letters in a row, and I was starting to really wonder whether I should consider a very different profession, perhaps going back to New York City to drive a taxi, or taking a 9-to-5 job with a more readily achievable job description. In the ensuing years, I told many of my own graduate students about that conversation, and most of them were surprised to hear that two of the intellectual giants in the field also needed to handle a lot of rejection in their lives. I also tried to motivate the young researchers to embrace negative feedback at some levels. At the local level, it pays to encourage your friends and colleagues to give you definitely truthful, critical feedback. Showering you with unconditional positive regard looks like a good thing to do, but sincere feedback is a more valuable gift, saving you the misery of completing an imperfect task and getting the sincere feedback from the editor in the form of a rejection letter. At the next level up, it pays to keep an open and non-defensive mind when you do get a letter that starts out, "I'm sorry to inform you." The nice aspect of scientific journals is that they let you see the customer's comments, consequently helping you learn how you could communicate your ideas better, or design a new study that will deal with an issue you had not considered. At times, negative feedback may even lead you to desert a non-productive type of work and divert your efforts to something else. And at the broadest level, when you are trying to develop a broad and integrative theory, it pays to listen carefully when people do not understand your reasoning or are not convinced by your proof. Evolutionary psychologists have gotten a ton of negative responses, but it has actually enhanced the field by motivating scientists to collect more extensive data, to address the relentless mistaken beliefs, and to re-explain the main ideas in clearer and more convincing ways. Naturally, I myself do not always take such an even-handed Zen perspective. Actually, my own responses to negative reviews typically follow the phases of sorrow that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross described as characteristic of terminal health problem. Denial. In the first paragraph of the decision letter contains the word string. Sorry to inform you. I at times don't read another word. I take the Scarlett O'Hara path. I'll think of it tomorrow. Anger. When tomorrow comes, I cannot resist the impulse to open Pandora's box. However, in spite of my self-encouragements to be sensible and relaxed, I am soon ranting about moron customers, semi-creationist, anti-evolution dunces, and other unprintable epithets. Bargaining. When my anger has come down below the wall-punching level, I may next draft a letter that begins, "Dear stupid editor, I barely know where to begin counting the ways in which you messed up in appreciating the brilliance of my work." Depression. After tearing up several drafts of my upset letter to the editor, I switched to the mournful refrain. Perhaps I do not belong in this field. I seriously asked this question after each negative evaluation in my more youthful years. But even now, after I have released posts in most of the leading journals in my field, I still occasionally ask it, reframed as, perhaps it is time I retired, and acceptance. Eventually, I get over my self-defeating reactions and say to my research team, okay, let's reread those evaluations thoroughly and ask ourselves, what is the next research study we need to do to handle reviewer C's bookings? There are some sub-steps of the approval stage, and sometimes it includes the sub-phrase where you recognize that it is actually fun to participate in dialectic interchange with other smart people. And the best thing is that clinical arguments are not like terminal health problems. Actually, there is an additional stage. Renewal. When you are really at your Buddha-like best, you appreciate that clinical development comes about not when researchers uncritically accept one another's ideas, but when they challenge one another to take their case one step further and either produce some more sturdily indisputable proof or to actually change the notion to include elements of the data we were trying to deny or overlook. By utilizing the negative feedback to enhance your technique, you and your theory grow stronger. When I think of it, these same stages apply to more than just clinical research. They really apply to a ton of other creative endeavors in the business world and even in our personal lives. Though it may serve a short-term purpose in emotional coping, there is no long-term future in denial, ranting anger, or depression when people do not like your ideas, and even when they do not like you or something about you. But there is a future in asking whether there is something in their feedback that you can use either to improve yourself, to enhance your message, or to understand that you are seeking the wrong objective or trying to attract the wrong audience and would be happier if you proceeded. Chapter 2. Zen Mindset. A Zen state of mind can be described as the mind that sees all things for the first time, like a newborn baby, checking out the world through fresh lenses that haven't been tinted by language, feelings, or labels. Neuroscience research shows that practicing a Zen frame of mind can actually relax the mind, bring more clarity, and allow us to act with more compassion. With a Zen frame of mind, you can allow your thoughts, emotions, and understandings to be what they are without judgment. Circumstances are just incidents that mean nothing until we place our own subjective ideas and emotions onto them. How we choose to focus our attention forms how we experience a provided circumstance. We should welcome our thoughts and feelings to the leading edge so we can learn a lot from their wisdom. This is very different from suppressing them or impulsively responding to them. Many people turn to things like drugs, gaming, food, work, sex, or people-pleasing to suppress whatever emotions and thoughts they want to overlook. As quickly as an unfavorable feeling stirs up, they react mentally rather than respond attentively. Even so, mindlessly going into action permits the negative emotions to continue. Gradually, the buildup of these emotions can end up being frustrating, and the addicting habits that you may turn to for convenience could actually make this circumstance worse. When acting from a Zen frame of mind, you relax the negative ideas and emotions by listening carefully to them. Eventually, this decreases your anxiety, because instead of being scared of pain, you accept it as part of life. That then permits you to be more focused, relaxed, and mindful to yourself. That practice is not about trying to get rid of anything. It has to do with accepting whatever is there. The following are 5 suggestions on getting the frame of mind of a master. Number 1. Be mindful. Mindfulness is the ability to focus and train your mind to become conscious of awareness itself so that you can pay more attention to your own purpose and meaning. As scientists have specified it, mindfulness requires focusing on the present moment from a stance that is non-judgmental and non-reactive. Mindfulness informs us about being an observer of ourselves, watching our actions and emotions as they are happening. As Daniel J. Siegel, M.D. puts it, at the heart of this process, it is the kind of internal tuning into oneself that makes it possible for people to become their own friend. Number 2. End up being an unbiased observer. There is part of all of us that is an objective observer. That part of us is open and free from psychological reactiveness. As Siegel says in his book Mindset, this is the receptive center of the mind, the peaceful depth of the mental sea. In order to develop a Zen state of mind, we have to tune into that element of ourselves. We do that by taking notice of our actions and responding to life rather than impulsively reacting to it. That creates long-lasting changes in our brain that let us be thoughtful in our responses. Number 3. Exercise routinely. With weekly exercise, a healthy diet plan, and a great night's sleep, you could lay the structure for important changes to occur in your brain. The more your brain changes in these important ways, the healthier it becomes. This eventually causes a happier life. Exercise is an underestimated treatment intervention. It releases endorphins, which combat negative emotions and promote the further development of a mindful brain. Number 4. Don't try to change your true feelings. Just let things be. Attempting to push yourself to feel differently than you do is a technique that goes nowhere at all quickly. A Zen state of mind involves accepting what is and not being held up by judging yourself for feeling a certain sort of way. Amazingly, people find that letting things be also permits them to change. We should look at our inner selves with openness and acceptance rather than judgment. That requires being kind and cutting yourself some slack. And lastly, number 5. Stay present in what you are doing. To stay present with whatever you are doing in this moment, you just need to acknowledge when your thinking goes astray and pulls you into the past or future. It can seem really hard initially, but ultimately, it ends up being simpler. If your best friend came to you with an issue she was having, would you try to neglect and judge her for her feeling upset about a tight spot? I would hope not. You would probably listen to her struggles, let her speak freely, and offer a shoulder to weep on. That is what it means to be open and attuned to another individual's feelings. Wouldn't it make more sense to extend this exact same compassion to yourself? Working to a Zen frame of mind means exactly that. Being helpful of yourself and others means letting pain just be there in the moment, being understanding instead of combative. You need to learn how to trust your mind and thoughts so they do not become separated. You do this by bringing them into focus and loving all of them like you would someone you care about. Chapter 3. How to upgrade your mindset to succeed in life. Our success and happiness depend on your mindset. What you think, you end up being. Our state of mind affects how we see the world. If yours is misshaped, so will be the way you see yourself and others. Our beliefs and ideas form the way we behave, even if we don't understand it. Developing the right frame of mind is crucial to being successful in life. Here is how to upgrade yours. The value of frame of mind. A frame of mind is a state of mind. It is a sum of beliefs, opinions, and ideas that we have formed about the world and ourselves. It is the lens through which we observe our world. Our education, religious belief, childhood, and experience shapes our belief in ideas. Our mind is set. It directly impacts our perception and reactions. As Amit Ray said, the mind is a versatile mirror. Adjust it to see a better world. Mindsets can change, but they do so gradually. Attitudes, on the other hand, have a short-term impact. That is why they are simpler to customize. Our mindsets are deeply ingrained in our beliefs, and it needs additional effort to change them. Your mindset predetermines your analysis and responses. It forms your relationship with the world and with yourself. Choose your state of mind wisely. Your state of mind can help you or hurt you. The most popular concept about mindsets outlines two types: growth versus fixed frame of mind. In State of Mind, the new psychology of success, Carol Dweck suggests that our beliefs about our own intelligence determine our ability to learn. A fixed mindset is a belief that our qualities are fixed traits that we cannot change. People with this frame of mind really believe that talent alone results in success. A growth mindset, on the other hand, is thinking that our intelligence can grow with time and experience. This state of mind encourages us to put in extra time. Effort results in higher achievement. A fixed mindset restricts our capability for learning, while a growth state of mind helps us reach our full potential. Even so, there are more kinds of attitudes. The lenses we use impact how we handle our feelings. An unfavorable frame of mind can amplify our negative emotions and get us stuck in rumination. Our attitudes develop two effects on us. They either limit our potential or they free it. For example, binary thinking forces us to consider only two possibilities. We think regarding one thing or the other and see things through a right or wrong lens. The frame of mind you use can bring clearness or cloud your perception. The different kinds of frame of mind. Let us examine the most frequent types of frame of mind. This is not an exhaustive list, but a starting point to help you reflect on the lenses you use without noticing. As part of my work helping companies update their mindsets, teams catch what limits or liberates their high performance. The following are some that people tend to use more regularly. Right or wrong versus unbiased. We really love being right. The trouble with this frame of mind is that we stop taking note of other perspectives. Rather than learning, we just care about winning the argument. Verification predisposition is the propensity we need to embrace information that supports our beliefs. The desire to be always right makes us decline facts that might illuminate our views. Victim versus liable. Self-pity is an unsafe choice. When we play the victim, we lose control of our life. Instead of doing something about it, we blame others for the things that go wrong. Playing the victim role is a lose-lose circumstance. No one will come to rescue us. Life requires that we own our own actions. Comparing to others versus being your own requirement. There will always be a person doing better or worse than ourselves. When we compare to others, we invite enviousness and envy to tox in our lives. Contrasts are deceiving. Recuperate control by becoming your own requirement. Concentrate on your progress, not on another person's status. Saying no versus yes and. A lot of no's kill creativeness. However, that is our usual answer when introduced to new ideas. We say no before even considering their potential. We are trained to reject unpredictability and new ideas. Imagination needs a yes and mindset. Instead of blocking the conversation, enhance creative skill by building on other people's ideas. Reactive versus proactive. Reactive people really believe they are not accountable for what they say or do. They do not control their choices and let their situations control them instead. Proactive people do not squander their energy or time. They concentrate on what they can manage, think through situations, focus on the future. A proactive frame of mind puts you in control. Afraid versus courageous. Seeing life through a worry lens is daunting. Fear will always get in on our way. Adopting a courageous frame of mind is vital to accomplishing greatness. Nerve does not mean the lack of fear, but to face our fears, move forward in spite of your fears. Avoidance versus dealing with reality. An avoidant state of mind gets us stuck grumbling about what went wrong and what we do not like. Instead of fighting reality, learn how to face it. Accepting reality as is does not mean quitting. It is a needed step to move forward. How to upgrade your mindset for success. Number 1. End up being more aware of your attitudes. Accept that your thinking needs change. Start by increasing consciousness of your frame of mind. When you respond to a circumstance or before making a decision, which lens are you using to see reality? Are you adopting a perfectionist mindset or a me one, and think that the world revolves around you? Number 2. Avoid seeing reality in binary terms. Most attitudes are deceiving. They push us to see the world in black and white terms. Binary thinking produces a false problem. We act just as if there are only 2 possible choices when there are actually more. Challenge your binary thinking. Avoid the propensity to divide all the things into 2 categories, black and white, either or, right or wrong. Number 3. Assess your beliefs. Our attitudes are deep-rooted in our beliefs. To change our state of mind, we should initially examine our belief system. What is holding you back? Are your beliefs supporting you or limiting you? Identify the beliefs that are practical and work on those that are not. Number 4. Redefine your purpose in life. All of us want to become part of something bigger than ourselves. What is your life's purpose? Find your why. Create your own step of success. What attitudes will help you get there? Select the lenses that will help you accomplish your higher objective in life. Finding your life's purpose is not about the location. It is all about the journey. And number 5. Turn limiting mindsets into liberating ones. Obstacle your existing attitudes. Go back to the analysis you did on point 1. What are the mindsets that are not helping you? Changing your attitudes is hard, but it deserves the effort. Updating them requires changing your filter with a new one. Your state of mind is the lens that filters how you see yourself and the world around you. Upgrade your state of mind. Turn your limiting beliefs into liberating ones. Chapter 4. A Zen Perspective. Whether knowingly acknowledged or not, we live in a practically constant state of anxiety. We are worried about what we could lose and what we might not gain. We also live in grief and regret over what we have left, or at the very least, feel we might have undoubtedly lost. We thus connect ourselves to the very things that we cannot eventually control, the past and the future. In truth, there is only today, this moment, and this breath with which we are and can actually be linked. The past is gone, and the future has not yet happened. We are here now. From a Buddhist perspective, addiction may be considered the archetype of attachment. Addiction is, in fact, a collection of attachments. It is attachment to fear, attachment to loss, an attachment to longing, emptiness, and an absence of a sense of purpose. Whether we choose alcohol, drugs, sex, food, pornography, exercise, or even shopping. We are simply using the means serving the strong urge to fill an area and dampen our pain. The means doesn't matter. That is simply a gesture. The compulsion is the core of it, and that compulsion is not so much to drink, or do drugs, or to spend. That compulsion ultimately is to fill that space. And just what is that space? We may consider it as the God-shaped hole. The wisdom mentors suggest that in relating to a self, a me, we divorce ourselves from the true nature of our existence. From a psychological perspective, this division emerges as inauthenticity, and the internal conflict that condition engenders promotes internal strife. In our effort to reconcile this sense of inauthenticity, we stick much more frantically to developing a sense of me-ness and can, in many cases, end up being morbidly self-destructive in our efforts to soothe the pain of failure in that reconciliation. Addiction normally begins as an interest. As soon as we express an interest in something, we are expressing a preference. In expressing a choice, we are dividing our attention and creating an attachment to something in the world around us. As that interest develops into a fascination, our attachment deepens. Our attention ends up being more and more unique, and we end up being progressively imbalanced, mentally, intellectually, and spiritually. Fascination might then flower into obsession, and we become a servant to our attachment. We are no longer ourselves, and rather than losing our mind, which would be the competent means by which to escape our attachment, we are trapped inside the mind. With obsession, our attachment becomes a lot more magnified, and our exemption even more narrow. As we end up being servants to our attachment, our mind, and our behavior, we lose the ability to work out free choice and, in that light, move from fascination to compulsion, from place of being driven to a place of need. At this moment, we struggle the first noble truth. Our attachment has become so included that we have welcomed suffering. We are no longer willful, but rather subject to and at the sufferance of the will of our attachments. When we find ourselves in a place that we cannot live without exercising this attachment, whatever it might be, we have fallen into a state of dependency. Within the context of dependency, people usually feel that they do not have an option. Absolutely nothing could be further from the truth. We always have a choice. When facing someone who themselves is challenging an addiction, saying to them, "Stopping your behavior is your choice," is, though, typically met deep resistance for their failure to see that choice. The key to getting a grasp on this is recognizing that choice is a consistent state. It is not a single moment in time. If the choice not to be addicted were a single choice point, then all we would eventually do is move our attachment from something socially described as negative, say drinking or being promiscuous, to something that is socially perceived as positive, not drinking or being chaste. In point of fact, we would end up being addicted, or at least attached, to not being addicted. Buddha mentioned the middle way. Within the framework of choice that suggests that if we are present in the moment, our choices are continuous. We do not then go right or left, say yes or no, think good or bad, or see black or white. Rather, we are aware that both opportunities exist themselves. We recognize this and acknowledge it, then choose neither. When we lose the middle way and fall off our balancing point, we develop our pain. We create our sense of empty space and our anxiety around loss. We deceive ourselves into believing that we are less than whom and what we are by virtue of attaching ourselves to things, items, situations, feelings, and stress and anxieties that take us from ourselves. This is the engine of addiction. Returning to the present moment brings us back to our constancy of choice. we find ourselves in the middle way, on the balancing point, and we have the ability to see both choices. Seeing both sides in balance and in perspective then gives us the chance to work out empathy. Most importantly, it gives us the opportunity to exercise compassion toward ourselves. We have the ability to see the left and the right, and we are also able to see the left in the right and the right in the left. Our disappointment with the world and sense of victimhood thus becomes transformed into the recognition that we must set an objective in our lives. Our depression finds an antidote for itself in the gratitude that we can reveal just for living. We begin to see outside ourselves with a clear vision and recognize that the things outside ourselves are, in fact, rather outside ourselves. In releasing our attachments, we also let go of the important things that influence us and draw us into a state of mind where we feel less than we are, where we feel that something is missing, where we need to fill the space or dampen the pain or simply make it go away. Coming back to the breath as a marker for the present moment and exercising the constancy of choice in that moment and every moment also gives us an opportunity to break without the bonds of this supreme state of attachment and begin to climb up out of the pit of suffering into which we have gotten ourselves. Chapter 5. Can I relieve stress and anxiety by practicing mindfulness? Anxiety is an emotion characterized by feelings of stress, concern, fear, apprehension, anxiousness, or unease. It can also cause physical changes, such as sleeping disorders, queasiness, headaches, increased high blood pressure, and heart rate. These feelings can be tough to manage and can make everyday life challenging. Approximately 25% of stroke survivors experience anxiety to differing degrees. I certainly experienced anxiety, and it ended up being a major challenge affecting many aspects of my life after my stroke. What is mindfulness? Mindfulness is the practice of bringing your attention to the present. It is asking yourself, what is happening in my life at this moment, Mindfulness includes making intentional and non-judgmental evaluations. Mindfulness does not mean we overlook our past or future, but instead, we take a break and end up being more familiar with our ideas in the existing moment. This permits us to reflect. Is there any truth to our thoughts? Are we judging ourselves based upon an event that happened in the past? Are we fretting about a possible situation that might happen in the future? Mindfulness basically means that you are bringing awareness to where you are now, what you are doing, and why you are doing it, with no judgment. We improve mindfulness by learning to detach from anxious thoughts. That is attained by practicing self-awareness and recognizing stress in the mind and body. Simply put, by learning to recognize when anxiety is beginning to build and bringing your focus back to the present. This enables you to be able to understand what the cause is and consider what you can do to prevent your anxiety from structure. Mindfulness teaches you to have greater control. You will learn how to have control over your thoughts versus your ideas having control over you. Living in the past or the future. Let us consider what dwelling on the past will accomplish. Will it change the past? Will the stroke magically unhappen? No, it is just torturing you, causing you grief, and losing valuable time and energy. Next, let us consider what obsessing about the future will accomplish. When has fretting ever changed the outcome? Never ever. Once again, precious energy and time are being squandered. Is it all right to learn a lot from the past? Definitely. This serves a purpose. Can you look back to celebrate how far you have come? Again, the answer is absolutely. It serves a function. Can you look to the future to plan? It is serving a purpose, so the answer is yes. Nonetheless, dwelling on the past and worrying about the future generally serves no advantage and takes the focus from what is very important. What is truly important is the here and now. Perhaps the present moment is not so enjoyable, but by dwelling on the past or stressing over the future, you are just adding tension to a currently tight spot. Alternatively, if the present moment is wonderful, taking the focus away can rob you of completely delighting in a great experience. What is meditation and how to start? Meditation does not have to be the stereotypical idea of sitting motionless on a pillow. Just finding moment of thankfulness and consciousness as you tackle your day can be a great starting point. Meditate while you eat. Mindful eating will help slow you down. Pay very close attention to the food, enjoying the taste and odor, and experiencing the texture. Learn how to listen to your body. Stop multitasking and overwhelming yourself. Try doing daily tasks by focusing only on the job at hand. By making these simple changes, you may already feel the advantages of mindfulness and want to continue down this path. So, what next? It takes practice to practice meditation. Understand that this will require time. Do not expect your first meditation session to be simple. As crazy as it could sound, it takes practice to learn how to do nothing. Learning to quiet our minds is not as easy as it might sound, but believe me, it will get easier. Schedule it into your day. With time, you may find that those silent moments spent meditating help you to go back to your day more relaxed, focused, and better able to problem solve. Start your session in a peaceful environment and a comfortable position. Close your eyes and pay attention to your breathing. Do not change how you breathe. Simply observe your body as you breathe in and breathe out. You may be lured to shift your focus elsewhere. Restless ideas may pass through your mind. Acknowledge them, but then bring yourself back to consciousness by focusing on your breathing. Start sluggish, maybe with a 5-minute session, and then slowly increase the time you spent practicing meditation. Once you finish your session, open your eyes and see how you feel. Do not assess, just observe. Another method that can be helpful when beginning is using directed meditations. Online apps and videos are readily available, and many streaming services have directed meditations. Check resources in your area as in-person classes or meditation groups might also be readily available. According to specialists, even people who do not experience anxiety can take advantage of self-care sessions concentrating on mindfulness. In this fast-paced world in which we live, we are constantly surrendering ourselves to other concerns, work, family, good friends, and so on. We hardly ever require time just for us. Personally, I was doubtful about meditation, but after reading and hearing a lot more about its positive results, I realized that I had absolutely nothing to lose by giving it a shot. After just a couple of sessions, I could already feel the advantages, and on especially difficult days, I might include a number of sessions in my day. One of my preferred sites to focus my breath is, "Are you feeling anxious?" Take deep breaths in sync with this. Chapter 6. Changing your brain through changing your mind. When it comes to handling stress, the Eastern traditions could be particularly efficient. The Western health model is based on detecting the underlying reason for an issue and then finding an active medical or behavioral interference to eliminate it. Those with chronic health problems are typically advised to stay strong or to have a fighting spirit. Eastern medicine has a more holistic view of disease, as indicating a lack of balance or an energy blockage. The solution is to bring the body and mind back into balance, using gentle, non-invasive techniques, such as herbs, manipulative methods, movement, or meditation. How the brain processes feeling. Our lower brain centers, like the amygdala or hypothalamus, were made to find and respond to threats, like a tiger ready to eat us. They create an instant fight or flight response to increase the chances of survival, but they can become hypersensitive, disrupting our ability to experience the present moment in an open and relaxed way. Daily meditation practice can help to fix this imbalance and allow us to retrain our minds so we're less likely to overreact with extreme anger or fear to mental threats like rejection. Being less chronically stressed can also help our immune systems operate more effectively to fight off illness. Mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness-based stress reduction treatment, or MBSR, is a meditation program developed by John Kabat-Zinn and researchers at Harvard Medical School to help people living with persistent pain. Central to this form of meditation is a focus on the breath to bring the mind back to the present moment when it strays. Over time, this results in greater mindful power over attentional focus, such that more primitive alarm reactions are less able to control their thoughts and behaviors. The final objective of the meditation training is to incorporate present moment awareness into each aspect of everyday life. Research over the past 10 years or so has begun to demonstrate how meditation might change the brain and enhance psychological and physical health and well-being. Improved immune response. A 2003 study by Richard Davidson and Associates with healthy staff members revealed that 8 weeks of meditation practice changed the pattern of electrical activity in the brain. There was greater activation in the left hemisphere amongst meditators than people examined at the same time who did not have meditation training and were the control group. The researchers also looked at immune reaction to an influenza vaccine and found out that the meditator group had more antibody titers to the vaccine than the control group, indicating better immune performance. Those advantages lasted for months after the intervention. Changes in the brain's gray matter. A more recent, regulated research study showed that meditation was connected with increased gray matter in the hippocampus, which is responsible for learning and memory, and decreased gray matter in the amygdala, which is the initiator of the brain's precortical alarm system. Those psychological changes parallel the principle that meditation increases mindful control over emotional, behavioral, and attentional reaction to risk. Minimized pain sensitivity. Scientists are also starting to show that meditation can change the way we experience pain. Chris Brown and co-workers at the University of Manchester revealed that a mindfulness meditation course caused less uncommon activity in areas of the prefrontal cortex when subjects expected to get an unpleasant stimulus, such as a little electrical shock or contact with a hot item. Those who practiced meditation reported finding the pain less undesirable too. Shift from negative to positive effect. Clients in another mindfulness research study showed substantially greater changes in brain electrical activity from activation in the right to the left cortical hemisphere, from before to immediately following meditation and some months later, compared to a control group. This pattern of brain activity is connected with a shift from negative and towards more positive emotional experience. To put it simply, mindfulness meditation regimen appeared to help people to experience more positive emotions such as love, compassion, or satisfaction. Does a briefer intervention work? One reason people withstand practicing meditation is the time it takes. The original protocol included 8 weeks of mindfulness training sessions plus 45 minutes a day of at-home practice. At the beginning, lots of people find it hard to support attention on the breath for that length of time. Logistical and time factors to consider make patients more hesitant to register or result in dropout. A briefer interference that could be used more widely in medical facility, staff member health, and outpatient psychological health settings might be more economical and tasty to patients. A really current research study released in the Journal of Psychological Science shows that a briefer meditation protocol can produce comparable changes in cortical activity. Scientist Christopher Moyer and his co-workers at the University of Wisconsin-Stout appointed subjects at random to either a 5-week mindfulness meditation group or to a group put on a waiting list for services. Data showed people in the meditation group practice at home a number of times a week for about 25 minutes each time on average. These meditation subjects showed the same changes in cortical activity as those that got the full interference in earlier studies. That is, a significant increase in left hemisphere cortical activation. The waiting list group did not show these changes. This is an exciting finding, since it suggests even much shorter meditation periods can significantly increase positive emotional experience in the brain. Chapter 7. How Mindfulness and Meditation Promote Psychological Health. I've put together a top 10 list or meta-analysis of some recent scientific research that supports numerous ways that mindfulness and meditation promote wellness throughout different phases and situations of someone's life. 10 ways mindfulness and meditation promote wellness. Enhance brain performance. Promote creative thinking. Relieves stress. Curtail anxiety. Boost empathy. Reduce possibility of depression. Reduce chronic pain. Lower risk of cardiovascular disease or stroke. Help cancer recovery. And alleviate post-traumatic stress disorder. Number 1. Boost brain efficiency. A union of scientists from Norway and Australia just recently realized that non-directive meditation activates the default mode network and parts connected with memory retrieval, which boosts brain performance. The 2014 research study was published in the journal Frontiers in Human Neuroscience. Number 2. Promote creative thinking. A 2014 research study from Leiden University in the Netherlands realized that certain meditation techniques can promote creative thinking as marked by convergent versus divergent thinking, even if someone has never meditated before. The discoveries were published in the journal Mindfulness. Number 3. Ease tension. A 2012 research study from Massachusetts General Healthcare Facility, or MGH, and Boston University, or BU, discovered that participating in an 8-week meditation training program had positive results on how the amygdala responded to stress, even when somebody is not actively practicing meditation. Their findings were released in the diary Frontiers in Human Neuroscience. Number 4. Cut anxiety. A 2014 research study from Johns Hopkins Medicine found out that 30 minutes of meditation daily can improve signs of anxiety and also depression. The discoveries were published in the online diary JMMA Inner Medication. Number 5. Boost empathy. A 2013 study from Northeastern University College of Science and Harvard University analyzed the impact of meditation on interpersonal harmony and empathy. The scientists found that meditation made people more willing to act compassionately and to help another individual in need who was suffering, even when doing so went against peer pressure. Number 6. A reduction possibility of depression. A 2013 research study in Belgium schools found that mindfulness had the ability to minimize the possibility of depression-related symptoms in adolescents. The results showed that mindfulness can lead to a reduction in symptoms associated with depression and could also safeguard against the future development of depression-like symptoms. Number 7. Decrease persistent pain. A February 2015 study by the American Discomfort Society found out that meditation can be an efficient treatment for decreasing persistent neck pain. The authors concluded that meditation has special advantages for producing pain relief and for pain coping. Number 8. Lower risk of cardiovascular disease or stroke. In 2012, the American Heart Association reported that a group of people who practiced transcendental meditation regularly were 48% less likely to have a cardiac arrest, stroke, or to actually die from either of these causes. Individuals who practiced meditation also lowered their high blood pressure and reported less anger and stress. The more frequently somebody meditated, the greater their outcomes. Heart disease is the leading cause of death worldwide. Meditation could drastically reduce the number of people who die from heart attacks and stroke each year. Number 9. Help cancer recovery. A 2011 study from the University of Missouri-Columbia found out that breast cancer survivors' health improved after they learned mindfulness-based tension reduction, or MBSR, a kind of mindfulness training that integrates meditation, yoga, and physical awareness. A 2014 research study from the University of Montreal found out that mindfulness-based meditation could reduce some symptoms associated with cancer in teens. The scientists discovered that teens that participated in the mindfulness group were less depressed, and that mindfulness was valuable in enhancing mood and sleep in teens with cancer. And lastly, number 10. Alleviate post-traumatic stress disorder. A 2013 study by the University of Michigan Health System found out that mindfulness workouts that included meditation, stretching, and approval of thoughts and feelings helped veterans with combat-related post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, eliminate their signs. More specifically, the scientists found that veterans with PTSD who completed an 8-week mindfulness-based group treatment plan showed a substantial decrease in signs when compared to clients who went through standard treatments. Mindfulness-based cognitive treatment, or MBCT, integrates cognitive treatment with a meditative method of mindfulness that underlines an increased consciousness of all ideas and feelings. There are an endless variety of ways to meditate and practice mindfulness. This collection of research studies illustrates that specific types of mindfulness meditation seem to have specific benefits. Fine-tuning which kind of mindfulness or meditation somebody uses as an authoritative to treat a particular need will more than likely be the next big advance in the general public health revolution of mindfulness and meditation. This has been Zen. Relieve stress and anxiety through mindfulness and meditation. Written by Evie Harrison. Narrated by Mary Johnson. Copyright 2020 by Evie Harrison. And production copyright by Evie Harrison. The end.